Welcome to Coffee Meets Cloud, where three women in tech come together to share real stories about leadership, life, and everything in between. Join our hosts, Karami McCollum.
In other news, these headphones, I'm going to have to do something else. I am on fire.
Cassandra Parker.
It's pretty basic. We have to stay fully caffeinated in order to do all the things that we do.
And Rachel Rogers.
I don't know if we can survive this. I feel like this one goes in the vault.
Your go-to source for candid conversations and unfiltered insights. So, grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and join the chaos.
Welcome back to Coffee Meets Cloud. It's another Tuesday. How are you guys doing?
It's a Tuesday on a Friday, so that's a miracle.
I know, but oh wow, that was a mind. That rocked me there for a minute. I was like, wait a minute, it is Friday. Why did I say that? Oh yeah, because this releases on a Tuesday.
But it's technically currently it's Friday in our world while we're recording.
But happy Tuesday to those tuning in. You know what they say about Tuesdays, right? I know I've told you guys this before. What they say about it?
No,
it's just Monday's ugly sister.
Mm.
You know it's bad when you laugh at your own jokes.
That's pretty good.
What's new since the last time we caught up?
I have energy drink information. I don't know if anyone has seen this yet or not, but you know that Celsius, who I am big hearts to Celsius. You know, it's my fave. I drink it every day. Karami is an Alani fan, if you haven't figured that out yet. Celsius bought Alani. So now the two loves have become one. And now we should be able to get that sponsorship because, so.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Right? I'm currently drinking the fall flavor witch's brew of Alani, though, because afternoons I do like my Alani. Girl, it's like those caramel apple suckers that you get at Halloween time. Oh, yeah.
You lost me.
So good.
So good. You eat candy corn, don't you?
No, candy corn's disgusting. I'm a big hate on candy corn.
If you eat candy corn or Peeps.
No, Peeps. Okay. I'll defend Peeps. I like to joust with Peeps. Have you done Peep Jousting? You put two Peeps in a microwave and you put a toothpick in each Peep and you put them on like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and they blow up and then one of them will pop the other one. It's amazing.
Okay. So I can get behind that.
But
I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to eat it.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
I have a neighbor in, when we lived in Texas, you could blindfold him and put a Peep in his mouth and he could tell you what color it was. And he could even tell you like if it was like the off-brand of, yes.
They're not flavored.
Right.
They're just colored.
The dye in the sugar, I kid you not, he can tell you what they are every single time. He can even tell you like, oh, that's the off-target brand of da-da-da-da color. And like he's not seen them. He's literally blindfolded. It's amazing.
Proof you've eaten too many Peeps in your life. That right there. That's it. No, candy corn, boo. I can't do it. It's just straight sugar. I need to have some flavor.
See, I don't even taste sugar when I try to do one of those. What comes to my mind is like, if you want to eat a candle, just say so. You know, just buy the candle. You can buy one of those cheap ones from the dollar store and gnaw on that thing for ages. It's way cheaper than buying a bag of candy corn. Oh,
well, but they're just too sweet to me. I don't like this sugar.
No, thank you. But in other sponsorship news, so my daughter started high school. So if you need some market advice, I'm going to be having a few more cocktails. So buy some stock in La Marca, not the market, Karami, but La Marca. And there you go. It's going to be great. It'll be, a good investment opportunity.
Welcome to the wild and crazy world of having a daughter in high school. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Really She's doing really good. She's excited, but I mean, it's week 1. So.
I have a life update and I'm going to try really hard not to get worked up about this again because I'm just looking for any opportunity to vent about this topic. I know
what this is.
No, listen, I'm not going to go way in the weeds. I just want this to be a cautionary tale. Okay. Anybody listening who, I feel like all types of jobs have some amount of customer relations, really, no matter what you do. Even if you don't work for the man, if you're doing your own thing, you still got to have people that are paying for your product or your service, or you don't actually have a business. Okay.
True.
Cautionary tale. Please keep an eye on the quality of your production. Some of the things going on out here in these streets, I just can't figure out how that happens. Okay. Number 2, I don't believe the customer is always right, because I've been on the receiving end of that thought process, and it's absolutely not true. But I think some organizations have taken it to the other end of the spectrum, and they think the customer is never right, and that is infuriating. I know this is a first world problem. I want to start there, okay? I realize this venting session is coming from a place of privilege, and I'm thankful. However, I went through 3 robot vacuums that did not work, that cost me a ton of money. 3 of them that were not made easy to return. I mean, at this point, I'm just not going to have one, apparently, because I'm not doing this again. But the way they tried to only offer me 70% of my money back.
On the third one.
On the third.
So I feel like, Jeremy, we're talking about a new section of the website of what not to buy. Like a cautionary tale of what not to buy and the experiences we've had that have not been great.
I'm not going to name drop them because I just feel like, I mean, I feel like after 3 of these, it can't be coincidence. So maybe I should name drop them. But also, like, is it possible I just truly got 3 lemons and they're not bad over? I don't know. But it just blew my mind that a company could think you could send someone 3 different units. I'm talking about the last one wasn't even completed. Like, the way it was assembled and sent to me could have never worked in any reality. And their response to me after explaining what I had been through with 3 units was to say, well, our warranty policy is 70% refund, but we got approval to give you 80% because that's somehow a consolation, an extra 10% of my money back. I don't know. Just come on, people. Be better.
Yeah.
Be
It
better.
also goes to show that if they already have that policy, they probably get returned a lot.
Yeah.
Probably so, now that you Here's my thing, right? Like, I'm not too good to vacuum, but I got my golden retriever after I had a robot vacuum. So, like, when I made the decision to get that puppy, it was assuming that a robot was going to clean up her hair, and it's not anymore. And it's a lot harder around here lately. So I need something.
First world problems, indeed.
Indeed. Made me thankful, though, for technology.
Well, Rachel did allude to a new section that's on our website that we want to talk about, which is our, what did we call it on our website?
It's called resources.
Resources. There you go. I couldn't think of that word.
Yes.
Friday.
Oh, so we've been working on the website. We are expanding the use of the website. So we do have a new resources section. This is where you can go to look into the things we talk about in the show. We'll definitely let you guys know if we're going to add something as we talk about it. We have some books out there that we really love, some that we've talked about on the show. We have some of the things that we have found that helps us do podcasting, in case anybody has been interested in going on this venture and thought maybe it was too hard to ever try. Well, it turns out it is kind of hard, but you should still try. It's fun.
It's fun.
And organizations that we love, that we support and want to prop up. We'll have those out there too. There
Awesome.
Love it.
So glad Jeremy could bail us out since she created it.
I know.
You are welcome.
Yeah. Kudos to Jeremy.
Good job.
Well, are we ready to talk about today's topic?
Dun, dun, dun.
Sure.
I know. All right. Well, we're going to venture into the world of consumption. And no, we're not just talking about your favorite beverage. We are talking about software consumption. So there is a shift. The shift's been going on for a while. It's not necessarily new. But the notion of moving away from license-based products to consumption-based products and some of the challenges that can come with that as you think about financial planning and you think about how to look at return on investment. It can be a lot trickier than the prior days of software where you could say, oh, well, I'm going to have 10 people, which means I have 10 licenses and I can use them for whatever I want and I don't have to worry about it. Obviously, this new model is a lot more advantageous for the software companies and is a way for them to bring in additional revenue without necessarily having to create new products. That's fun. But, it has a lot of implications in the real world. So that's what we wanted to talk about today. And then, we're always up for if you've got non-technology topics and you want to talk about your consumption of food or drinks or games or movies that you really like, feel free to leave those in the comments, as we love talking about those things too. But first, let's talk about software consumption.
I would like to break this down in layman's terms really quick, if you don't mind. For anybody who, even if you're in corporate America, it doesn't mean you've worked in the technology space. So what we mean when we say consumption pricing, the old school pricing model, think about it like you pay for your gym membership. So for every human that's using the thing, there's like a flat cost for that. So the more humans come through the door or the more humans log in to that technology, you can see it, go up incrementally accordingly, right? Consumption based is based on usage. So think about it like your utility bill, like this summer when our kids decided they had to have the sprinklers out all the time, and we saw the water bill double.
Right.
Yeah. There are technology customers who saw that happen to their technology bills in the last few months. So that is consumption.
And what's happening that's, first of all, that makes it budgeting very difficult. As someone who's currently in budget season, it is extremely difficult to know what your usage is going to be. You could either be super under or super over, right? Under is definitely preferred, but then that might mean people are not utilizing your technology that you've got out there, right? But the main concern is surprise bills, right? You've budgeted, I don't know, just a round number, $100,000 a year for something. It comes in with a random bill of $150,000. Well, what do you do with that extra $50,000? You have to go back and explain why you're over in consumption. So, and without any metrics for prior year's usage, how do you even know what you think you might need going forward, right? So it's such a interesting topic and an interesting shift in the way the software budgeting is happening. And it's not just Salesforce, right? This is happening in Google or AWS. Anything that you're really using is changing to this consumption-based pricing. And I personally foresee a lot of pains in getting new technologies approved, because I think proving out the ROI, to Rachel's point, is going to be much more difficult, because you're going to be held to that, right?
Well, and it depends on, because I've seen different types of consumption-based pricing as well, which is a fun one, right? When you talk about conversations, right, that you're having, right? They're saying, okay, well, for every action that happens in a conversation, and an action is every time you ask me a question and I go to find that question. It's not the complete conversation, right? So what happens when somebody, is asking 15 questions or something like that, then for that particular person, you've spent 15 consumption credits, right? Well, then the other model is, okay, well, then it's every time, a data set is called. So it's not necessarily every action, it's every time a data set is called. So the variability too on how consumption is calculated, and it's different by product. It could be also like this part of the product charges this way and this part of the product charges that way. It's almost becoming a full-time job to not only like monitor it, but predict it, be able to say like, if we have to course correct it, how do you even know what to course correct, right? Like you've got to have a completely different skill set and way to view these things to really get to the point of like being accurate, which finance at the end of the day, like, doesn't want to hear how you're 50 grand over budget, right? It's like when you go to your personal checking account and you need to write $100 check and you only have $90, you don't get the extra $10 just because you got to write $100 check, right?
Right.
And so it's definitely becoming, hard and a full-time job to keep ahead of.
Well, and the sales pitch that I've seen around this or heard around this is how it's more fair. It's all about this fairness mindset. And I mean, that just sounds nice. But in reality, like, what do orgs value more, right? Is it fairness or is it predictability? Because you're not gonna have
Well,
both. To Rachel's point, without being really dialed in and knowing exactly, what your use case workflows are and what your user base looks like and your plan around rolling this stuff out. I mean, there's just so many variables.
You have to
well,
do a lot more due diligence
no.
is what you have to do, right? You've got to do a lot more digging before you go and sign these contracts. You've got to understand I'm putting this group of people doing this particular thing, whatever it is. What does their volume currently look like? How many more customers do we plan to onboard? There are all these questions that you have to ask, where before it was, hey, do you guys think you're going to be onboarding new associates next year? Okay, cool. You're bringing 25 new people. I know I have to budget for 25 new licenses. Now it's, okay, if you're bringing 25 new people and those 25 new people manage 50 accounts each, and those 50 accounts each, you have 37 conversations a month with those 50 accounts. Like, there's all this additional math that goes along with figuring out what your consumption credits might even look like, which turns budget season on its head, and finance is probably scratching their head thinking, I don't know how you guys are going to do this either.
Well, do you
Well,
guys think it's going to have any impact to, companies and teams wanting to try new things and innovate with this stuff? Or is it going, is it going to make folks kind of scared of tipping, what's the word I'm looking for? Dipping their toe in the water, not knowing
well,
what's going to be on the other side?
I think it might, I don't know that it'll necessarily get people to not innovate, right? But I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of more of those uh-oh conversations, because I think a good sales pitch is still going to be a good sales pitch. They're still going to get you to buy it, right? But what's going to happen is, if you don't think about guardrails, so guardrails are huge in this arena, right? Like, how do you shut off actions that shouldn't be happening, right? Like, or if somebody starts invoking too many actions, how do you shut that traffic off, right? I think right now in the world we live in with interconnectivity with APIs and things like that, you build guardrails in, but I don't think it's to the same extent that you're going to have to look at when you talk about consumption, right? And consumption-based products, and really thinking through, like, how do I protect myself from bill overages? How do I get ahead of the game, right? I think if you don't build that in up front, you're going to naturally find yourself in a situation where at some point you're going to be over budget. And in theory, it is because your usage increased because you have happy people and they just love your product and that's what they want to do.
Sure.
Let's hope that's the scenario versus
that's easier to sell, right?
Right.
That's, hey,
Right.
finance, great. Here's the great thing about it. We got 400
Right.
new customers and we're making all this revenue and all the
Right.
things. If you don't have
Versus
that,
Right. Versus, hey, the process went rogue, or we had a bad actor come in and they ended up using all these consumption credits because it was public facing on the website, right? I feel like if it's internal, you're going to have greater control over it. But any time
Yeah.
you go external with everything, there's a lot of risk. And I think this just adds to the risk matrix for external applications.
100% agree. I think there is a big question mark around what could this end up costing that will make, I don't know. To Rachel's point, I think a good sales pitch is a good sales pitch, and they're always going to want to innovate, right? Everyone's always going to want to do the new next best thing, because at the end of the day, you're hoping that you can help your customers, right? The long run, make more money, make your customer service team more effective, whatever the case might be, utilize less headcount, all those things. But I do think there is a world in which it's going to be a more difficult conversation when it comes down to what are we actually going to spend our money on, because we just don't know what we don't know.
I would love to have a conversation with a CFO and ask, like, what do you dislike more? The whole having a bunch of seat licenses for technology that we're not using, that's shelfware, but at least it was predicted, you had it in your budget, or the stress of over usage of something you were way off base for in budgeting?
It'd be an interesting question to ask, that's for sure. If you
Yeah.
are a CFO and would like to give us your opinion, we'd love
Please
to hear.
let us know. Yeah.
This is a little insight for anyone who doesn't have to deal with pricing and technology on what some of us have to deal with, because sometimes it can be really nice to just show up and be able to develop on the tool or do whatever the things are. And the people that are in charge of the budget are stressing out. And maybe you don't understand why your manager won't let you go out and buy that one new thing that you just really are jonesing to use, right? Like there are reasons.
I feel like this goes back to being a mom or head of a household, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you got to say, no, you're not getting the soda at the checkout line because we can't afford the soda at the checkout line and we got one at home, right? Or no, we're not going out to eat at dinner because we have things at home we can cook. Oh, you don't like what's in the pantry? I'm sorry, but the pantry's full. Like you can find something, right? It's that same kind of concept. And nobody likes having those conversations, right? But we all have limits. And I think the good news is with a household, a lot of times things are a lot more predictable than when we're talking about these corporate budgets and we're talking about having to manage that, because with the amount of variability, you can have a 50%, 75%, 80% swing. And, if you're not on top of it, it can be a real challenge. And some of these things with consumption, like I will give the companies credit that are selling these, they will kind of blend a bill, right? So like if you did have like a high month and a low month, like hopefully it balances out for you, right? So there is some favorability that way, but depending on the size of your company, you may not be able to swing something like that, right? And I think that is where it hurts innovation, Jeremy, of like those companies that it's now going to be a barrier because they can't afford to take the risk, right? Versus some larger companies where, a 10, 20% swing, they can probably handle it, right? They can probably manage it out throughout the life cycle, but the smaller guys probably can't. And that could be detrimental to their business.
And I haven't looked at the way the contracts are written, but there may be some, negotiation room in your contracts with your vendors that say, hey, you'll only be charged a maximum of X, or, to your point, if it's a 10, 20, 30% swing, we're only going to charge you for up to 20%. I mean, there may be a world in which that applies in some contracts. So,
well, how do you,
I don't envy the sales reps. Let me just say that. Like,
so walk me through this, right? Because you guys have way more experience with the contract work than me. So I'm thinking of like when, let's just use AI tools as an example. You have a group or a product team, or your business really wants to get into AI, but so there's like an appetite to use it, and they know there must be ways that it would make the business really cool and give them advancements and all the things, whatever. But they haven't gotten to the point where they really know what their use cases are and what they want the AI to be able to do. Therefore, you have no idea what the workflows are going to look like. Therefore, you have no idea what the consumption is going to look like. But they want to know, what ballpark of cost are we talking about? Like, is there really the appetite to bite that off? Or is that like a next year thing? Like, what's the compromise between being able to give them some idea when they're really in the very, very, very early stages of considering a new tool?
Yeah, I think the first thing is you don't have to necessarily know the workflow, but you have to know the type. Are we talking about a chat on the website? Are we talking about a bot that can, when a phone call comes in, understand it and then relay it somewhere, right? Like you do have to know what input method are we talking about? And are we talking about it's going to converse, or are we talking about it's just an intelligent kind of workflow manager? Because those are kind of the key indicators to help you start to decide, okay, how can I project volume? So for example, if I was going to coach you something for your website, right? And you tell me your website traffic, because you should have your website traffic, right? That's typically a number of people have. And I can say, okay, well, if we put a chat on a website and we assume worst case scenario, every single person that visits hits a chat, right? And we assume that every single person that visits asks 2 questions, right? Then you can say, okay, so worst case scenario, right? Like if that's really what you want to do and you don't know anything else, right? Here would be how much the AI would roughly be from a ballpark perspective, right? That's how I typically start with people. And, hopefully that's the largest number. But also, if you find out it's not the largest number, it's typically you got to a larger number because you got to a more complex use case, which has more value to the company. right?
Mhm.
So it normally offsets itself as you're looking at if like your ballpark was like too low. Because by that point you've got to your value statements. But I think the thing is that the business defining value
Yes.
And what are
really
those
concrete.
KPIs? Like, more than just saying, how do we think it could add value? Like, oh, it plays a role in this process. No, 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 no. What is it going to automate in your process? How much time is that saving a butt in the seat? Like,
Right.
are you
Or
gonna
how
get
do
more
you
sales? Like, what? There's
right.
gotta be numbers.
The biggest one is deflection, right?
Yes.
So how is the bot handling the simple task and only the hard task get to a human,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so that is a real use case of like you can calculate real savings, right? Because I
Sure.
can handle X amount of additional customer volume without having to put another support rep on the phone who's only going to pay me 80% for my refund. But, you can get that ticked and tied together. That is a very good use case. And that's typically where people start, right? Typically people are starting from the cost avoidance factor of if I
Mhm.
cannot have to hire another person, because a person is always going to be more expensive, right?
Right.
Right.
And so that's typically where people start, which is how you get the funding.
But they at least have to know some general idea of what they're trying to do. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
they got to know they're looking for a chat that's going to do FAQ versus a chat that can go in and do fancy stuff, right? And
You
Well,
couldn't just come in and say, "Hey, my goal is to not have to hire anyone next year. How much of my process can you automate with a chatbot?" Well, we don't
right,
know. I have
right,
no idea.
right.
yeah. I think in your example though, Jeremy, like a lot of ways and the way I've been implementing AI chatbots is starting with it answering from an FAQ base. And then once people get used to that, because the flip side of this is like you could like estimate the biggest thing, but if your customer base isn't ready to tackle it, it doesn't matter what you
Mhm,
build, right?
mhm.
And you don't train your customers. You don't host webinars where everybody comes and is like, let me teach you how to use my product. No,
Right.
right? Like if I can't just do it, I don't want to do it. So I think, keeping the use case simple, getting your real customers used to that process, used to that experience, and then expanding also helps you prove value from the get go, right? Like instead of taking on the most complex use case and then wondering why it costs so much but delivered next to nothing.
Yep.
And monitoring the questions that your customer are asking that your chat bot could not answer, right? Like those are the high value items, are those actual questions that your customer want answered, then implement those. That's how you're going to see your savings. But you got to put something out there to start to give them something to react to
Yep.
collect that data. Because if you don't ask, you'll never know that what you're
Yep.
building is valuable or not.
Well, and decide what you don't want it to do. I mean, that should be something up front, right? So like in the medical space, we don't want it giving medical advice, right?
No.
We
Mm-mm.
want it just answering clerical questions, not clinical questions, right? So I think there's a lot too of just putting up guardrails like that, right? Of like, hey, I don't want you to go in these subjects. I always want that to go to a person, right? Or these subjects are safe and okay. And here's, how you can answer them.
Well, thinking about the technology companies that are moving to this model, all I can say is that I hope they're doing a good job and putting an emphasis on giving you some really valuable tools to understand your consumption. Because when I think about at home as the mom who also manages the finances and I get my water bill, it is so infuriating to try to understand where that number came from. And I feel like that's with all utilities, but water
Oh,
is top
yeah.
of mind because that's always high here with the water consumption and then the sewage that's basically double. Um, you try to look at that thing or log into the portal and understand what caused that. It's nearly impossible. And I'm sure it's different for every company, but like for ours, you can only see it by the week in the portal.
So not by the day.
You can't see it by the day, let alone by the hour. So if you're trying to figure out on your own, like for example, do I have a toilet that has a slow leak? Well, one way that you can tell that is if you have consumption overnight, because you're not going to have steady consumption hour over hour in the middle of the night. That probably indicates you have a leak. Well, if I can't see that in the portal, guess what that means? I have to call customer service and go around and, so not to go down that rabbit hole, but, Salesforce, Snowflake, whatever it is, customers are going to get really frustrated if you're charging them that way and you are not giving them transparency and understanding in what your product is doing, how it functions, and how that relates to consumption.
Absolutely. And while we're not giving plumbing advice because we are not certified plumbers.
No,
I didn't tell you how to fix it. I just told you how to monitor it.
We talked a lot about water, and that's just plumbing in general, right? But we are, I think companies have a long way to go in that arena. I think that, there's some calculators out there that try to help you predict it, but I think they're learning too, right? And I think so there's grace to be given on both sides. It doesn't make your budget process any easier. It doesn't, make those things easier. But I think if you have a good partner and you can really come to the table and have those conversations, right, that it'll help. And I think, as they grow and mature, that of course the tools will get better and better. But I think, it's just kind of like API calls. If you think about how that originally started, right, and how original traffic on API calls and what was going on with them was limited, right? And then more and more tools came out that helped you understand how those calls were being made, what happened to the call, if the call failed, right? Like you had this advancement that occurred in that area that really allowed you to be more on top of things and proactive, right? I think you're going to see the same thing with consumption credits. It's going to take it a minute to get there, and it's going to take a minute for everybody to be on the same page, but you'll get there eventually. I think it's just, how we all have the fun of budgeting in the meantime.
And just really getting ready to do some groveling with your leadership team when you say, hey, I know we went 30% over, but here are all the reasons why I had no idea that we were going to do that. Or here's all the ways in which we've really exceeded our goals. So obviously one is directly correlated to the other.
And if all else fails, ask ChatGPT. It'll figure it out.
Sure. That's what we'll go with.
Listen,
ChatGPT, that won't work for me today. It has not answered a single question for me this afternoon. I don't understand.
It got too big for its britches.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, dun,
It
dun.
needs some new plumbing.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up. It was great seeing you guys.
It's always
Great
awesome
seeing
to see you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Please follow us on our socials at Coffee Meets Cloud. It helps a ton. And check out our website. Like I said, we are growing that thing, coffeemeetscloud.com. If you have an idea for an episode topic, you can drop us a line there. If you want to check out the resources we talk about the show, there's a space for that as well. And we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening.
Bye,
guys.
Bye.